Welcome to Now We're Getting Somewhere. I'm Katie, and I'm a certified life coach, but I've also been a management consultant at McKinsey and a product manager at a tech startup. In other words, I know what it feels like to have a life that looks pretty good on paper, but doesn't feel as good as I want it to. I help my professional clients develop lives that are more meaningful, happy, and also more successful. And I want to share the same practical insights with you. Let's go. Hey, everybody. Today's personal update before we begin our podcast is going to be a little confession. I am really happy to be here recording this with all of you. I'm here with you, aren't I? But there is a little piece of my heart that is still with the romantasy book that I'm reading right now, that I'm just so into. I also just want to say, I don't know what happened. I never thought that I would read fantasy novels. If you don't know, romantasy is like romance plus fantasy, but probably like 25% of the female population of the US. I got hooked by ACOTAR and Fourth Wing, and now this is a thing I do. I really like book 2 of ACOTAR and the first 2 books of the sort of Fourth Wing Empyrean series, but I'm reading this book right now called The Serpent and the Wings of Night. Actually, I just finished that one. It was so good. It destroyed me. Guys, I'm working on book 2 now. It's a little slow. It started a little slow, but now I'm really enjoying it too. And there's something so engrossing about like a 500, 600 page romantasy novel where you just like lose yourself in that. So just here to share that truth about my week. Okay, so with that personal update, today's podcast is a little shorty. I'm going to be talking about energy. You all know that's one of my beats. I'm hitting the pavement on the energy beat. And recently I said something to a client in a session that was just a really good distillation of my thoughts about energy. I'm not sure I ever said it quite this way before. And me saying in that way seemed to really shift some things for her. And she told me that she has been now telling it to everyone she knows too. So I thought I would stick it in a little podcast for you. So today I want to kick things off by telling you that little mini story about this client, because I think it's going to be relatable to so many of us. And that's going to lead me to my reminder for you about energy. And then we'll call it a day. So let's go. Okay, so the client story first. Our brains love stories. I feel like I've been telling a lot of stories recently, but I just think our brains really respond well to stories. So I'm going to keep doing it. So this particular story is about my second session with a client. So it's still pretty early on in our time together. And she arrived in that second session. And I always ask my clients how they're arriving because I want to know how they're doing in that exact moment. And she shared that she was feeling frazzled and tired. And I asked her why, and she said to me, it's just all the things. Like, this client had 3 kids, she had some pets, there was a bunch of stuff going on with her house, and she's planning this Taylor Swift birthday party for one of her kids, which is a little much, and kind of all the things. And she said to me, after all that, she was like, but it's like, what are you going to do when you have kids and pets and a house and everything? There's just a lot to do. What can you do about that? And part of the art of session 2 for me as a coach is kind of feeling into which knots have give to them. Like, I'm this massage therapist and I'm trying to feel like, which one of these can I resolve decently quickly and which of them are going to be kind of tricky. And as she started to tell me this, my felt sense in my body was kind of like, okay, this might be a little complex to get out. So let's leave this for now. Because part of the context here is that the second session is usually my final intake session. In sessions 1 and 2, I'm getting to know my clients. I'm asking them a really wide range of questions about their lives so that I can come to session 3 with a proposal for a coaching roadmap, which is just like 1-pager that describes how they'll feel at the end of our time together, what goals we want to achieve, skills, all that kind of stuff. So I still had a bunch of questions I wanted to ask her because this was still an intake session, and I try not to go too deep in any one cul-de-sac as a result, kind of in session 2. So we were going to get back to it, but for now I didn't want to, I wasn't sure if I could make a lot of progress in just a couple minutes, so I was just going to leave it for the moment. But before we could get to all of that kind of finishing up the intake stuff, she was just telling me a little bit about the coaching homework she'd done the previous week and what she'd gotten out of it. And she was telling me about this book that I'd asked her to start reading and what resonated with her. At the end of all that, she just made another little side comment about that Taylor Swift birthday party. She was like, oh yeah, there's just so much to do for this Taylor Swift birthday party for my daughter. And, my daughter would have also been super happy just to do like an escape room birthday party, which would have been way easier. But I kind of pushed her to do this Taylor Swift birthday party at home. And there's so many parts of party planning that I love, but also it's just like so much. And immediately as she said this, my whole body lit up. It's always like a coaching side. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Hold the phone. And she was like, wait, what? And I was like, okay, so you had the option. You had the option of doing a very energetically inexpensive thing. Just booking an escape room, showing up with a cake. And your daughter was also going to be super happy with that. And you were the one who pushed her into doing a Taylor Swift birthday party, which has now required a ton of work. And yes, you enjoyed some of it, but also it's part of why you're feeling frazzled now. And she looked at me like, yes. And part of the really important context in this client's case is that she has been in the past a very successful professional, but at some point a few years ago, she no longer felt like the path she was on was right. So she left her job and was home with the kids and kind of always thought it would be like just a year, and then she would like find her next path, but life got so busy and she's just never quite done it. And now it's been a handful of years. So this tiredness, this frazzledness, obviously that's not great on its own. Like it just doesn't feel good on its own to feel tired or frazzled a lot of the time. But it was also very clearly blocking her from doing this other very important thing to her. And I said to her, look, I just want you to see that in this case, you had the option of an energetically inexpensive choice, and you chose an energetically expensive one. Is that something you do a lot? And then she thought for a second. She was like, yeah, I basically do that all the time. And the other piece of important context here, if you're new to me, is that I often talk about money as a metaphor for energy. So I'll talk about certain things being energetically expensive versus inexpensive. That means that they like use up a lot of energy or require a lot of energy versus not a lot of energy. My old guard knows all this. So I have lots of podcasts and essays where I talk more about this, but just some context in case you're new here. So after she told me that she basically does this all the time, I said, look, I just want to say you can always choose energetically expensive options, but they're kind of like financially expensive options. Most of us can't choose the financially expensive option absolutely all the time. Like if you had a friend and she sort of was always like month to month, never had a lot of energy, never had a lot of financial savings and really wanted to be in a better space financially, and she told you that she wanted a designer handbag, but she also wanted designer t-shirt and socks and underwear and shoes and everything else, what would you say to her? And my client just immediately smiled because this example was not difficult for her. She said, well, I'd say you can definitely have the designer bag, but you're probably also going to need to buy at least some of your basics at less expensive places too. Like Target has some really cute basics. And, she got it just from that. But I pointed out to her that energy is basically the same. Like my client could buy the Prada bag energetically, but she can't buy everything from Prada or Givenchy or Coach or whatever luxury brand you happen to like. And because right now she was basically trying to buy everything she owned from, I don't know, let's say Saks Fifth Avenue on an energetic level, she was contributing to her quite serious energy problems, which again, were also causing other fairly serious problems, like not being able to figure out and actually move forward on her next career steps. And I'll make another side note here, which is to say that, it's important to note that this was not the only thing holding her back from figuring out her next career steps. She and I are working on this topic right now. The session that I'm talking about was just a couple weeks ago. And as with any tricky problem, there's lots of things that are in the way. There are thoughts and feelings and confusion and mysterious things. Part of the fun of one-on-one coaching is that we can untangle all of those things together one by one, but not having time and energy and feeling frazzled a lot was definitely one of the factors getting in the way, and we needed to resolve that too. And so this insight that she could buy just about anything she wanted, but she probably can't buy everything she wanted, it really stayed with her, and it really impacted her in a meaningful way. She told me in later sessions that she's been noticing in the weeks since we talked about that she kind of has this impulse to just spend energy whenever she has a little bit of open space, a little bit of extra energy. She arrived in our session, I think it was last week, and she told me that she's been kind of sitting with that desire a lot. She's been noticing that agitation or jumpiness and kind of not spending that energy more and more. And she literally arrived at our last session. She said to me, right before our session, I had an extra hour and I was tempted to pop over to Target because there was a couple of things we needed. And then I thought to myself, you know what? I honestly think I can wait for a few days. So she took a shower and relaxed instead. Oh, the lids in my body when I say it. I think so many of us can relate to that. We have errands that can be done today, but also we might need to go to Target later this week anyway, so it might wait till then. And wouldn't you know it, she felt relaxed this time when she got on the call with me because she had taken that hour to shower rather than running to Target and cramming more errands in. Are you smiling when you hear this example? I'm smiling when I tell this example. I think it's such a testament to my client being so willing to look at herself clearly and be with tricky feelings and try something new. I mean, she's so awesome. And she told me that she's shared this insight that you have to manage your energy budget carefully, that you can buy the designer bag, but you need to go to Target too, with so many people in her life since we talked about it. So I wanted to share it with all of you today. And I want to back up as we're finishing here with this insight and give the obvious caveat. Yes, most of us have at least some of our energy expenses that we can't change. They're fixed energy expenses. If we're not going to abandon our kids or our spouses or our parents or our jobs or our house, those things will require energy and we can't always cut them. I mean, I mentioned this in my last podcast, but just recently my husband and I spent 5 hours going across town for a GI specialist appointment and an x-ray with my son. And, that's unavoidable. I got to make sure that my son gets his GI issues worked out. So some of it's not super within our control, but some of it is within our control. Some of it's within my control and some of it's within your control too. So often, if I see a client who has serious energy issues or even mild energy issues, they are not yet taking responsibility for what is in their control. They're not yet acknowledging that they are buying a lot of their clothes from Saks Fifth Avenue. They're not yet acknowledging that they are buying a lot of the food in their pantry from Erewhon, to use a very LA reference. Erewhon is you can imagine how much food at Whole Foods costs and you double it. That's Erewhon prices. Look, and maybe we love buying so much of what we eat or wear from Erewhon or Saks Fifth Avenue. That can be fine. You definitely don't have to change. It's just, if you also don't love constantly being in debt or constantly being close to not having enough to cover your expenses, it might be time to take a closer look at your spend. And I will also say, just sort of as another point to consider, it may not even be that you think you have energy issues. You just may be noticing some other issues, like you don't really know what you want, or you're procrastinating and not making progress on some key project. And it may be that energy overspending underlies it to at least some extent. So that's my reminder to all of you. You can buy anything you want. You just can't buy everything you want most of the time. You probably intuitively get this with money, but it might be wise to do an audit of how you spend your energy. You can do that alone, or you can do that with me as your coach, obviously, and see where you're overspending. Okay, everyone, that's what I got for you. Hope you have a great week. I'll be rooting for you. If you really want to change in a meaningful, lasting way, that's when you need a life coach. Every client I've worked with has had incredibly personalized reasons why they're in the tired or anxious or stuck or uninspired state they're in. Working with me can help you identify those roadblocks, which are usually blind spots that you genuinely cannot see, and implement a profoundly customized, doable plan for overcoming them. I have a very small, high-end, one-on-one coaching practice. If you'd like to be my next client, reach out at katiesiever.com. I'd love to meet you.